He say, follow me.
The harvest is plentiful, laborers few. The retelling's here to share the good news of J-E-S-U-S.
Hey y'all, on today's episode, Let Him Cook, we are going to be talking about Jesus turning a kid's meal into a meal that fed 5,000 plus people. One of the many miracles of Jesus, and Bisa actually pointed out for me before we got started today that this is the only miracle that appears in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all four of the Gospels. There are many accounts of Jesus that may appear in like 1 or 2 or 3, but this one made it into all 4. So that's just an interesting little tidbit for you.
It must have been a huge miracle.
Yes.
Like all 4 of the whole town was talking about this miracle.
It definitely made an impression, okay? Now, the first 4 chapters of the Bible, like I said, of the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the Gospels. So they talk about the life of Jesus and his ministry, his death, his resurrection, basically what it was like to live with him as a disciple and to help to spread his word and eventually the good news. Now, this story you can find, like we said, in those 4 books. So it's Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 through 21. Mark chapter 6, verses 30 through 44. Luke chapter 9, verses 10 through 17. And John chapter 6, verses 1 through 14. So there are many, many books in which you can read it for yourself, because we always say that is very important. And I like to read different versions of it because it kind of shows you what sticks out to different disciples. And one detail might not be in another version. Even though it's all the same account, it's just like what was important for them or their viewpoint or what they happened to see when this was all going down. So definitely recommend reading at least 2 of them.
It's like if we went to a party, right? We went to a party, the same event happened, the same things happened, but she's going to tell it from her perspective and I'm going to tell it from my perspective. Doesn't mean anybody's lying. Doesn't mean the account didn't happen 4 different ways. It doesn't mean the account happened 2 different ways. But it's her perspective, my perspective. So now you're getting this same story from Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John's perspective.
And we love to see it. So, as this story takes off, Jesus and the disciples have been traveling around. I said they have been on their Oprah because Jesus is like, you get a miracle, you get a miracle, you get a blessing, you get a healing, you get a healing, all over the place. And they are tired with a capital T because they've just been going all over, talking to different people, working miracles, spreading the glory of God. And Jesus just got this big news that John the Baptist, his cousin whom he loves, was beheaded. So he's grieving his cousin. He's exhausted. The disciples are tired. So they make a decision to kind of take the boat out into more of a solitary area and just give themselves some time to think, to pray, to eat, to relax, to sleep. All of these things that they need to recharge before they continue going back out and talking to people.
Whitley said it perfectly. Relax, relate, release.
Yes. All 3 of them is exactly what they needed. However, Jesus has just stirred up such a curiosity in people. Wherever he goes, people are buzzing, people are following him, people are wanting to hear him. Who is this Jesus? What does he have to say? So even though they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, as they often are, people are on land following the path of the boat, hoping that when they dock, they can meet Jesus. And
they was flagging him down.
They were flagging him down. Okay? They were like the paparazzi before the paparazzi. They didn't have cameras. They just had probably like notebooks and stuff. But yeah, they wanted to know Jesus and get to meet him. And I can't blame the people. So even though Jesus is exhausted, even though Jesus, I'm sure, is quite hungry at this point, even though Jesus is tired, even though Jesus is grieving, he doesn't meet these people with disappointment. He doesn't meet these people with anger and say like, dang, I just needed 5 minutes to myself. Can I get a second? But he greets them. He's happy to see them. In Mark chapter 6, verse 34, it says, when Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. So even though he has so very much going on in his earthly life, he's happy to see them, and he understands that without him, without God, these people are lost. So he's still willing to give more of himself, even though I'm sure it felt like there was nothing left to give. Relatable.
But we treat it differently.
Mm.
We meet that with different energy sometimes. It's like very much giving begrudging. I don't want to do it. I need 5 minutes. I don't know if you've ever been a mom that's you go in the bathroom just to get that 5 minutes of solitude, and you have everybody needing your attention. It's just
and
like
your kids still want to be there. Your cat has a little paw underneath the doorway.
Yes, you just want 5 minutes to yourself. But Jesus is like, you know what? These people need a good shepherd, and who better than me to lead them? And not from a place of like boasting, but from a place of like, I don't want these people to be lost. And he knows that he is the good shepherd. He knows that he is the word. And so who better to get the word from than the word?
Than the word, direct. So he starts to teach and teach and teach, and he's just filled with this passion for spreading God's word, and more people gather. And when I say more and more, I'm not talking about a crowd of 30, 100, 500. We're talking 5,000 men. 5,000 men.
It's not including the children and the women.
So a huge crowd. And as it starts to get a bit dark, and remember, we don't have electricity, so when the sun goes down, the sun goes down, and that's that on that. So as it starts to get dark, the disciples kind of like, come to Jesus, take him side by side, like, hey, here's some stomachs rumbling. You might wanna shut it down and tell the people to go out and get food, because they're in the middle of nowhere, so they would need to go kind of like into the towns to see if they can buy food from somewhere. And Jesus is like, don't send these people away. So the disciples are already like, all right, what's he doing?
What do you want us to do? We have a couple of coins.
That's it.
And we can't feed 5,000 with these little bit of coins.
It's not going to work out. He says, don't send them away. Feed them. So they're looking around trying to figure out, what is it that we are feeding these people with? Like an air sandwich? Because it would cost a lot of money to feed all of these people. And they ain't got it. Just nicely said, they ain't got it. Okay? But they go around. They start looking. They're trying to figure out, like, well, does anybody have a little something?
A little something.
little something to munch on that you can share with the people of God. So they come upon a little boy, which we find in John's account specifically, that it was a little boy, and he has a lunch with him, probably something that his mama put together for him. He has 2 pieces of fish, and it's referred to as 5 loaves of bread, but it's not like a loaf of bread like we're used to today. They're more like little rolls made from barley. So Lisa said earlier, like, she done made him a kid's meal. A kid's meal. That's what she had for the baby. And this is the only scraps of food that you want to find out of all these people. Now, I don't know if you ever heard 5,000 plus stomachs rumbling at one time. I imagine it's not a good look.
Sounds like a very hungry symphony.
Yeah, exactly. However, the disciples bring the kid's meal back to Jesus, and they say, this is what we got.
We got 200 denarii and a Lunchable.
A Lunchable, okay? So I don't know what you finna do, if we're gonna cut this fish up into world's tiniest pieces or what you have planned, but we did not send your people away, and this is what we have to present to you. And Jesus is like, that's not a problem. So he gathers the people, and it says that they kind of sit in the grass. So I imagine this is like a big picnic with Jesus, and he puts them into groups, smaller groups. But mind you, this is still a lot of people. Any way you cut it, it's a lot of people to feed. And the first thing that he does, of course, is pray, is just give thanks for the food, which is such a beautiful thing to see. And it's such a great way for him as a teacher to model what the correct behavior is for everyone. So he prays, he gives thanks to God for the food. He breaks the bread in half, the roll, really, in half.
It was a dinner roll.
It was a dinner roll.
It was a dinner roll.
Okay, it was a dinner roll. Breaks it in half and starts to feed the people. And continues to feed the people. And continues to feed the people. And continues to feed the people. And it turns out that it's not just enough to feed the people once. But people can, if they need seconds, go ahead, get them. If they need thirds, go ahead, get them. Eat until you're full. Eat until you are satiated.
Ooh, big word.
Okay,
Satiated.
Right?
This time she used an actual dictionary word.
Yes.
In the last episode, she was out here making them up as she went.
I definitely do make up words as well, so you gotta watch out for me because I'm tricky with that. But I mean, I figure Shakespeare did it, so can I? But yes, the people are no longer hungry. The bellies are not grumbling. They're able to eat as much as they want because Jesus has multiplied and multiplied and multiplied until everyone is full. And not just that, but he makes so much food that there's leftovers. There's a little something left.
That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy.
Wild. So he tells the disciples, don't waste anything, gather it up, and they get 12 baskets and pack them full. I like to think of them as the disciples' doggy bag. So they had a meal to go because Jesus's provision was overflow of the overflow from the tiny portion that they started with. So he not only blessed them with that meal, but then the disciples are going to have another meal to snack on later. You know, if they want some fish and some bread, they can go right ahead. Jesus said
on the journey from where they are to wherever they are headed. And what I think is beautiful about him blessing the food is that it sets a precedence to thank God for what you have.
Yes.
Because what you have is enough. Because God provides you exactly what you need. And so even though he was able to multiply that and magnify that, it just makes me think that what you have is enough. And if you really pray over it and take it to God and thank him for what you have, it will be enough, more than enough of what you need.
It will be blessed. Because just to be thankful for what you have, to want for nothing, even if there are things that you could want for, is beautiful. To be so full of his spirit that you don't need for nothing else. Love to see it. Now we do have some takeaways, of course, for y'all, and we would love to hear some about what you learned from this, what you gleaned from this. But my first takeaway is that you do not have to feel guilty about coming to God. And when I read this story, I thought a lot about how Jesus must have felt in that moment on the boat. Like he just wanted to go away and have some time to process and pray and recharge. He's been so busy. I'm sure they don't always get a good night of sleep or the full bellies that they got in this story. He is brokenhearted over John the Baptist, his cousin who he loved. But still, he took time to minister to the people. Still, he took time to teach these people because he understood that they needed him. And sometimes I pray over things that seem so trivial, so very small that I'm like, oh, Jesus, I'm sorry, I'm bringing this to you. But it's not like that. Jesus is happy to hear from you. Jesus wants you to have that connection with him where you can just bring him the small things, the big things, little thank yous throughout the day. So you never have to feel like, you know, I'm bringing this thing to Jesus and it's dumb. He's going to be mad about it because he's not. He hears you. He hears your heart. So never feel bad about bringing something to God. The second takeaway I have is that our resources may be limited, but God's provision and God's care are not. So in this story, I think of the little boy's mom and just her encouraging him, like, yeah, go see Jesus, go see what this is about, and packing him that lunch as an act of a mother's love and making sure that her son is well taken care of. And I think of the little boy like, you know, yeah, I'll share this. I don't have a problem. He had no idea what Jesus was about to do. He didn't assume that Jesus was going to divide it up and feed all of these people. He might have thought that was about to be Jesus's lunch. Like, forget him and his little belly. But he was happy to share what he had with a giving heart. And the meal itself, barley is what poor people ate. So if they were more well-to-do, they ate wheat bread. But barley is what poor people ate. Sometimes it was given to animals. So it tells me that this boy didn't come from a lot of money or an affluent background. But A, mom is taking care of him. And B, he's ready to give it to Jesus with just as much joy in his heart.
And he was able to feed. He wasn't able to feed 5,000, but his generosity led to Jesus being able to feed 5,000.
His generosity led to this miracle, this blessing for all of these people. And I just think that that is such a beautiful act of kindness, and being able to see God just make that blessing not even tenfold, but thousandsfold.
And you never know how your kind gesture is going to bless somebody. You never know how your act of kindness could touch one or many just because you did something that was out of the pure joy of your heart. I don't know if that's what I was going for, but out of the sheer goodness of your heart is what I was going for, because the word sheer came up. Anyway.
I got you. And the last takeaway that I have from this story is that Jesus provides, and it's not just for our momentary needs. Like, I'm sure in that moment people were just hungry, right? Because when you're hungry, hunger is the only thing that you really tend to hear. But it's not just our momentary needs or physical hunger, but he's also thinking about future provisions and, more importantly, our spiritual sustenance. Now, I think about the life of the disciples. Jesus and the disciples often chose kind of discomfort. Like, Jesus, if he wanted to, could have been, yeah, we got this palace to stay in for the night. We got steaks. We got, I don't know, salmon.
Whatever the hostility people were eating.
Yeah,
left and right.
He could have been making that happen. But Jesus and the disciples, they were homeless. They were homeless wanderers. They often relied on the generosity of other people, taking them in, feeding them. So even though he could have made this super comfortable lifestyle for them because he's Jesus, he really wanted him and the disciples to be spiritually fed, to be thinking about God, to be thinking about carrying on God's mission, and knew that that wouldn't necessarily come from a place of comfort. But still, in this miracle, he overflowed the overflow and was able to provide extra for all of the disciples. Like I said, they had that doggy bag to go. So we might pray for something that is very in the moment for us, but God sees the big picture of what it is that we're going to need farther down the line that's going to allow us to glorify him. Feel me?
I feel you.
Now that brings me to a reflection question for today, which is, has God ever shown you that what you felt was not enough was sufficient? Just thinking of that kid's meal that multiplied to feed everyone. And for me, something that I really had to learn on my walk was to be a better tither, to be consistent with tithing, especially as a college student, because I was broke. Okay, there was ramen, there was pizza, there was eggs. I was living that kind of lifestyle, and it felt like I had so little already. So it was like, 10%. You want 10% of this meager little portion. And I had to learn to trust in God and be willing to be a cheerful giver, to give that money to him and not to worry about, well, what about me? What's going to come next for me? Because God always provided. I never had to go without for long. So that is definitely something that I had to learn. And I don't think it's just that I wasn't sure that my small little amount that I was able to tithe was enough, but I just needed to trust that God was going to have me and I wasn't going to need for that 10%.
And I was on the flip side of that. I had $100. God, you want 10? Got it.
Love that.
But now $5,000. God, you want 500? And I struggle with that. I really do. So not that I don't mind giving it. It's like back then when I was living at home, it was a lot easier to do that. Now that I'm on my own, and then what that makes it, and it sounds bad, guys, what it makes it seem like is that I don't trust God, because it's like, okay, if I give up this 500, I'm gonna be 200 short on rent. I can't be short on rent. Instead of being like, okay, God, I am doing what you called me to do, and I am trusting you with the rest. And I think that you will, I've heard, I haven't done it yet, y'all. I haven't done it yet. Don't judge. I haven't done it yet, but I've heard stories from two of my friends who did it where one friend, I think I said this in another episode, her husband was so diligent in tithing that he prayed for somebody and they gave him money and it paid the whole rent.
Man.
And then there was another time where my friend, she and her husband, she was pregnant and she needed to leave work because her pregnancies are just very hard on her. And so she needed to leave work and he was going to be the sole provider and they were already struggling. And so with that, with them already struggling and him having to be the sole provider, they were also going to sit and do their budget and live a very tight budget and give 10%. Mm-hmm. She said, Bisa, you wouldn't believe how God has been so faithful in this season. There were times when we were like, are we sure? But she said they stuck with it and God was faithful in it. I won't say I've tithed. I've given. Every month I would have a set amount that I'm like, this is what I can do, because God also says, be a cheerful giver. So even if you can't give a 10th, or even if you haven't heard from God that, hey, you need to give this 10th, even though it's in his word, but like even if you're feeling like you're unable to give a 10th, even though it's in his word, don't feel guilty, because he also says God loves a cheerful giver. Sure. There was a lady, she was poor and all she had was 2 coins. I don't remember the name of the coins, but that's all she had. And I'm sure it wasn't a 10th of her wages, but she gave her last and she gave it out of a cheerful heart and not begrudgingly. So whatever you have to give and can give consistently, then give that consistently. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for giving and being a cheerful giver if you feel that you can't give the 10th based on whatever your financial circumstances are. But I do charge you and myself to give 10% and trust God with the rest. And I think that also comes with really adhering to a budget.
Yeah, for sure.
Like seriously adhering to a budget. You can't say, I gave God 10% and then you out here just swiping your card willy-nilly, not keeping track of what you're spending. Mm-mm. And expecting to still meet all your bills.
It doesn't work that way. It's sacrifice, right? Like you need to give up some of the fun money. It's not yours in the first place. But money is it feels like such a hard thing to be faithful with. Mm-hmm. It feels like such a leap when you're not sure where your needs are going to be met and you really have to lean into God.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Cain and Abel, because we recently talked about them. They both gave a sacrifice to God, but one brother truly gave something that meant a lot to him. And another brother just kind of willy-nilly, here you go. So you have to give from the heart. That sacrifice should mean something to you because you're using it to glorify God.
Absolutely. And it's hard also because of what society perpetuates. Mm-hmm. The dollar, getting the bag, all the things surrounding money and money having this huge impact. And it doesn't help when, your income isn't going up, but everything else in the world is. It doesn't help when you haven't properly learned how to budget and you're out here spending unnecessarily. And we've all been there. I've been there and I still am working through that, and I know how to budget, and I still sometimes blow the budget. So I think that having that knowledge, having that discipline, and then also challenging yourself to really trust in God. Yeah. And I will be challenging myself to do that. I'm gonna let y'all know when I arrive. I will let you know when I arrive.
Yeah, I will announce it once I'm there as well. And it's okay to go to God in prayer about these things too. God, take away my want for worldly possessions. Take away my need for these Amazon packages.
Girl, preach!
I don't need it, but I need you, God. So it's okay to pray about it and still be working on it. We are all a work in progress in Christ. Okay. Now I have a couple Bible verses to go over with y'all as well. One focuses on giving, because we did talk about giving a lot, and we kind of reference this as well. And this is 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 7. Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. So,
That part.
a cheerful giver.
Cheerful.
Not a reluctant giver, not a begrudging giver, not a my mama said I have to giver, but a cheerful giver. Give from the heart. Just like the little boy who gave up his, I was going to say
Happy Meal.
Yeah, his Happy Meal.
His Happy Meal.
His Happy Meal. I was going to say his brown bag lunch. I don't think they had brown bags. It was probably in a sack or something like that. But be a cheerful giver. Give from the heart. Give because you want to be pleasing God. And it goes a lot farther than just, I guess.
Yeah, because where's that coming from?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if that's how you feel, where's that coming from? Are you feeling like you're giving out of obligation, or are you giving out of faith? And that's the difference.
And when we give from the heart, God can multiply so much with what we've given. I know when we talk about multiplying in this context, sometimes you could think like, oh, right, if I give God money, God will give me money. Could be, but God can also give you spiritual gifts. God can take this offering that you're using and use it to advance the children's ministry or other funds from around the church. So just trust it with God and give it with your heart and see what happens. My other two verses that I have are focused more on spiritual sustenance. So in John chapter 6, verse 35, then Jesus declared, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. And this verse actually comes not too long after Jesus fed the 5,000, because some of them come back the next day like, can you do that thing with the fish and the bread again? Like, I would like another free meal. And I get it. I do. I get it. I don't get it, but I get it because, God did a really cool thing. God did this miracle, and I'm sure they want to see it again. And also, a free meal is a free meal, So they just wanted to see him work it out again. So God takes those people who come back for the meal part 2 and teaches them, like, I am the bread of life. I want you to thirst for me. I want you to be hungry for me. I want you to be filled by spirit and not just physically. Food will mold. Food will go bad. But I am good forever.
Ever.
So Jesus truly is the bread of life.
Yes, and the difference then with the 5,000 is they were seeking him for spiritual sustenance.
Mm-hmm.
They were not seeking him for food. They were seeking him for spiritual sustenance, and God met them where they were in that space. And the byproduct of that was it was such a good teaching. After a while, it got late, people got hungry, and God still showed up for them and fed them. So he fed them physically and spiritually.
Yeah, he took care of them in every way. And then the last verse that I have is from Psalm 23, and that is verses 5 and 6. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And that is David who has written this, and he's talking about this in Psalms. And he's just talking about truly the goodness of God and the journey that we can go on with him. You prepare a table in front of the presence of my enemies. You anoint me. My cup overflows. It's not always about money. It's just that God has filled us so much. God has been so caring. God has been so giving with his Holy Spirit, with everything for us, that we just have to lean into that. We just have to believe it. It's there for our taking.
Yeah, because David went through some things before he got the promise. He definitely struggled. He was in the wilderness, and he had to rely on others for provision. And even though some, we won't name any names, like Nabal, was stingy with what they had, God still provided everything that he needed and was faithful.
He's giving praise to God even in the midst of a tough time, and saying, it doesn't matter what comes my way because I'm going to dwell in the house of the Lord forever. My reward is after this life.
Mm-hmm. That's the big reward. Like, there's little rewards, little gems in this life, but the big reward is later, when there's no suffering, when there's no pain, nothing but joy.
Nothing but joy.
The Lord. The joy of the Lord. And I think that when you talk about the goodness of God, it is seen all throughout the Bible. Like, you can't miss it. You can't miss it. The goodness of God is throughout the entire Bible, regardless of human shenanigans, because they're also in the Bible. But the goodness of God and his faithfulness is all throughout. All you need to do is read it for yourself.
That's it. That's it. So, family, we would love for y'all to hit us up in the comments. Tell us what your takeaways are. What did you learn from this? What are you thinking about? What has God put on your heart from this message? Tell us what you thought about as you read it for yourself. Let us know. We are so happy to do this with y'all. Please give us a like, give us a share, subscribe, comment, all of those things. And we'll see you again soon, okay? Bye.
He's the bread of life, Alpha and Omega, our firm foundation. Jesus!
The well that never runs dry. You're still thirsty off the Henny and you wonder why. JESUS is all you need.